There is a season in life where achievement no longer defines you, where the race is not about getting ahead, but about finding peace with who you are. After 60, many begin to ask, did my life matter? Did I live well? Did I love deeply? And here's the truth. Your happiness, your health, and your peace in the later chapters of your story will all depend on one habit: the courage to embrace vulnerability. For most of our lives, we've been told a dangerous lie, that showing our emotions, admitting we don't have all the answers, or asking for help is weakness. We were conditioned to believe that strength meant keeping a straight face, carrying every burden alone, and never letting anyone see us bleed. And maybe in your younger years, that kind of armor helped you survive. But here's the truth. After 60, that armor becomes too heavy to carry. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the purest form of strength because it takes courage to be real. Anyone can hide behind a mask. Anyone can pretend. But it takes true power to stand and say, this is me. I have scars. I have stories. I have wounds, and I am still here. Think about it. When you share your victories, people may admire you, but when you share your struggles, they connect with you. Strength without vulnerability is intimidating. Strength with vulnerability is inspiring. That's why this habit changes everything after 60. It shifts your energy from trying to prove yourself to simply being yourself. And let me tell you something powerful. When you embrace vulnerability, you stop fearing failure. Why? Because you're no longer hiding. You're not trying to be flawless. You're trying to be real. That kind of freedom allows you to live with lightness, with authenticity, with peace. It's not weak to say, I don't know. It's not weak to cry when your heart is heavy. It's not weak to lean on someone when the load is too much. That is strength, because strength is not about how much you can hold in. Strength is about how much truth you can let out. So if you want your life after 60 to be richer, freer, and more peaceful, start with this realization. Vulnerability is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally. When we are young, we often chase success, recognition, or security, believing those things will bring fulfillment. But as the years pass and you step into your 60s and beyond, you realize something profound. Life is not measured by what you accumulated, but by the quality of your connections. And here's the key truth. Connection cannot survive without openness. So many people spend their later years wondering why they feel distant from their children, their spouse, or their friends. The answer is often simple but difficult to face. Somewhere along the line, walls were built. Maybe pride built them, maybe fear built them, maybe the pain of disappointment or betrayal built them. Those walls might have kept out hurt, but they also kept out love. Openness is the habit that breaks those walls. When you dare to be open, you stop relating from a place of control and start relating from a place of truth. Instead of saying, I'm fine, when you're really hurting, you allow yourself to say, I feel lonely today. Instead of pretending you don't need anyone, you dare to whisper, I miss you, I need you in my life. That honesty is what draws people closer. Think about the people you feel most connected to. They are not the ones who always appear perfect. They are the ones who let you see them fully, their laughter, their tears, their hopes, and their fears. Connection thrives when both people feel safe enough to be real. After 60, this becomes even more important because time is too precious to waste on shallow conversations and distant relationships. The habit of OP. Ennis transforms ordinary interactions into moments of intimacy. A phone call becomes healing. A dinner table becomes a sanctuary. A hug becomes medicine for the soul. And here's something powerful. When you choose openness, you give others permission to do the same. Your honesty creates a ripple effect. Suddenly, your children open up about their struggles. Your spouse shares things they've held back for years. Your friendships deepen beyond surface level. Why? Because vulnerability and openness are contagious. So if you want stronger connections in the years ahead, stop hiding behind politeness, silence, or pride. Begin practicing openness. Because at the end of life, it won't be the money in your account or the titles on your resume that comfort you. It will be the people who sat beside you, the ones you dared to be open with, and the ones who felt safe enough to be open with you. By the time you reach 60, you've lived through decades of moments, some filled with joy, some filled with pain. And often what weighs on people most in their later years is not the failures they made peace with, but the wounds they never tended to, the apologies they never gave, the forgiveness they never extended, the tears they never allowed themselves to cry. Many people carry invisible bags filled with regret, guilt, shame, and unresolved hurt. They think it's too late to bring it up now, what's done is done. But here's the truth, it is never too late to heal, and vulnerability is the door through which healing enters. Healing doesn't begin when you hide your pain. Healing begins when you admit it, when you dare to say, that moment hurt me more than I let on, or I'm sorry I didn't love you the way you deserved, or I forgive you even though it was hard. Those words are heavy to speak, but they are powerful enough to release chains that have bound you for years. Think about it. Silence keeps wounds festering. Vulnerability cleans them out. It doesn't erase the past, but it reframes it. Instead of carrying your hurt like a pry, Sun's sentence, you carry it like a testimony of survival. And here's the beautiful part. Vulnerability doesn't just heal you, it heals the people around you too. When a parent admits mistakes, it gives children permission to forgive. When a spouse opens up about unspoken hurts, it gives marriage a chance to breathe again. When a friend acknowledges distance, it gives friendship a chance to be renewed. Vulnerability is the bridge that reconnects broken relationships. After 60, healing becomes more than a personal desire. It becomes a necessity. Because you cannot live freely in your final chapters if you are chained to your unfinished ones. Vulnerability gives you the courage to face those chapters honestly, to bring them into the light, and to write a new ending. So if you want peace, if you want freedom, if you want to feel lighter as you step into this season of life, practice vulnerability with your past. Be willing to open the locked doors of your story, because what you will discover is this: the very things you were most afraid to face may become the very things that finally set you free. For much of life, success is measured by visible achievements: the size of your house, the title on your business card, the balance in your bank account, the applause you receive. And for decades, many people exhaust themselves chasing those markers, believing they are the proof of a life well lived. But something shifts after 60. You begin to see through the illusion. You realize the trophies gather dust. The titles fade from memory. The money doesn't hold you when you are sick or sit beside you when you feel lonely. And suddenly you start to ask, what does success really mean now? This is where vulnerability enters as a radical teacher. Vulnerability strips away society's definition of success and invites you to create your own. It asks, what makes your heart full? What brings you peace? What makes you feel alive? Success then is no longer about impressing others, but about expressing yourself honestly. When you embrace vulnerability, success might look like having the courage to tell your children you love them more often. It might look like picking up a paintbrush even if no one ever buys your art. It might look like sharing your life story in the messy and the beautiful so that others can learn from it. Vulnerability helps you see that real success is not about how big you appear, but how true you become. And here's something powerful. Vulnerability frees you from comparison. In your younger years, you might have looked sideways at neighbors, colleagues, or friends, measuring your worth against theirs. But after 60, comparison is exhausting. Vulnerability lets you drop that weight by saying, I don't need to prove myself anymore. I just need to live honestly as me. Redefining success through vulnerability also brings contentment. No more chasing endless validation. No more feeling like you're behind. You realize that success is not a destination out there. It's a presence you carry inside. It's sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, grateful for another morning. It's laughing until your stomach hurts with people you love. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I am enough just as I am. So after 60, let this truth settle into your bones. Vulnerability redefines success. It teaches you that the greatest achievement is not in being admired from a distance, but in being truly known and deeply loved up close. That is a success that never fades. One of the quiet gifts of growing older is the way your perspective shifts. The things that once seemed so urgent, deadlines, deals, promotions, social approval, begin to lose their grip. And in their place, something far more precious emerges, the ability to find joy in the small, ordinary moments of life. But here's the key, that joy only comes when you allow yourself to be vulnerable. Why? Because joy requires openness. To experience it, you must be willing to slow down, to let go of constant striving, and to feel without filters. Vulnerability says, I don't need to perform, I don't need to chase, I just need to be present. And in that presence, joy reveals itself in places you may have overlooked for years. Think about it. The laughter of a grandchild, the warmth of morning sunlight, the comfort of a friend's voice, the taste of a favorite meal. These are small things, but they carry an enormous weight when you're fully present to them. Vulnerability restores that presence because it takes down the armor that kept you distracted, defensive, or too busy to notice. When you practice vulnerability, you give yourself permission to laugh freely, to cry openly, to dance in the kitchen even if no one is watching. You stop worrying about how it looks and you start enjoying how it feels. And that freedom is what turns ordinary days into extraordinary gifts. Here's the truth. Many people lose joy not because life takes it away, but because fear robs them of it. Fear of looking silly, fear of being judged, fear of being disappointed again. Vulnerability dismantles those fears. It lets you step into moments of joy without hesitation, without apology, without shame. And the beauty is joy in small things has a ripple effect. When you're vulnerable enough to laugh loudly, others laugh with you. When you savor the little moments, others are reminded to slow down too. Your openness creates an atmosphere where joy can multiply, even in simple spaces. After 60, joy becomes less about big accomplishments and more about small encounters. Vulnerability helps you rediscover that truth. Because when you dare to be present, when you dare to open your heart, the ordinary becomes sacred. And that is how joy is restored, not through grand events, but through the courage to embrace the being already hidden in life's smallest things. One of the most overlooked truths about aging is this: people are still learning from you, whether you realize it or not. Your children, your grandchildren, your community, even friends your own age, they are watching how you live, how you speak, how you handle struggle, and how you face the unknown. After 60, your life becomes less about chasing success and more about modeling wisdom. And the greatest lesson you can teach is not perfection, it is courage. But here's the twist. Courage is not about never being afraid. Courage is about showing up even when you are afraid. And vulnerability is the bridge that turns fear into courage. When you open yourself and say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm still moving forward, you are teaching the purest form of bravery. Think of it this way. If you always pretend to be flawless, people around you might admire you, but they will also feel distant from you. They'll think, I could never live up to that. But when you are vulnerable enough to share your struggles, your doubts, your failures, your tears, suddenly your courage becomes relatable. You're no longer an untouchable example. You become a living testimony of resilience. Imagine what it does for a younger generation to see someone in their 60s say, yes, I've made mistakes, but I'm not defined by them. Yes, I've had setbacks, but I still believe in the future. Yes, I've lost people I loved, but I've learned to love even deeper. That honesty doesn't weaken your influence, it strengthens it, because it shows others that they too can keep going even when life is hard. Vulnerability also teaches courage in the small, everyday moments. When you speak up instead of staying silent, when you forgive instead of holding a grudge, when you try something new, even though you might fail. Each of these acts is a lesson. You're showing people that courage is not reserved for grand gestures. It lives in daily choices. And here's something powerful. Vulnerability as courage creates legacy. Long after your words are forgotten, the memory of how you lived remains. The way you admitted your fears but pressed on anyway. The way you opened your heart even after it had been broken. The way you chose authenticity over appearance. Those moments become the inheritance you leave behind. Not just money or possessions, but courage itself. So after 60, remember this, people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real, because realness is what inspires courage in others. And when you embrace vulnerability, you become more than a role model. You become a living reminder that courage is not about being fearless, but about being brave enough to be fully human. Loneliness is one of the deepest struggles many people face after 60. It creeps in quietly, sometimes even when you are surrounded by others. It's not just about being alone in a room. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, and disconnected. And yet, here's the paradox. So many people stay trapped in loneliness because of pride or fear. They don't want to admit they need companionship, love, or support. But the truth is simple. Loneliness cannot be defeated without vulnerability. Vulnerability is the key that opens the door to connection. When you have the courage to say, I feel lonely, you are no longer burying that ache in silence. Instead, you are inviting someone in to meet you there. The moment you express your need for company, understanding, or comfort, you create the possibility for others to step closer. Think about it. When you keep your feelings locked away, others may assume you're fine. They may think you prefer your solitude. But when you let down the mask and admit your longing for presence, you give people permission to respond with love. Sometimes, all it takes is a phone call, a walk with a neighbor, or an honest conversation to begin breaking the chains of isolation. And here's something profound. Vulnerability not only frees you from loneliness, it frees others too. Many people around you, even those younger, also carry hidden loneliness but are afraid to voice it. When you take the first step and open up, you give them courage to say, me too. Suddenly, loneliness dissolves into shared humanity. Loneliness often thrives in silence, but it cannot survive in honesty. Vulnerability transforms silence into dialogue, distance into closeness, and isolation into belonging. It teaches you that asking for help is not weakness and seeking company is not shameful. In fact, it is one of the bravest choices you can make because it opens the door to love. After 60, this becomes essential. Your well-being, both emotional and physical, is tied to the relationships that surround you. Vulnerability ensures those relationships remain alive and authentic. Instead of waiting for others to guess what you need, you declare it with courage. And in doing so, you discover that the very thing you feared, opening up, was the very thing that saved you. So remember this truth. Loneliness doesn't end when more people are around you. It ends when you allow yourself to be seen as you are. Vulnerability is the medicine, and connection is the healing it brings. If there is one treasure we long for most after 60, it is peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from silence in a room or the absence of problems, but the kind of peace that settles inside your soul, where you no longer wrestle with pretending, no longer carry the heavy weight of masks, and no longer live in fear of being found out. That peace does not come from wealth or titles or even perfect health. It comes from vulnerability. Vulnerability is the act of releasing control. It is choosing to stop fighting to appear strong and instead embracing the strength that comes from being honest. When you dare to be vulnerable, you allow yourself to lay down the exhausting performance of perfection. You stop living as who you think people expect you to be, and you begin to live as who you truly are. That shift is where peace is born. So many people spend their final chapters in quiet turmoil. They regret unspoken words, they hide their weaknesses, they carry unresolved guilt. Outwardly, they may look calm, but inwardly they are restless. Vulnerability is the only path to quieting that storm. When you finally speak what has weighed on your heart, when you allow yourself to be known, when you admit your humanity instead of denying it, you experience the freedom of nothing left to hide. And freedom always births peace. Think of it this way: peace is not the absence of scars, it is the acceptance of them. Vulnerability allows you to say, yes, I've been hurt, but I survived, or yes, I failed, but I learned, or yes, I am imperfect, but I am worthy of love. That kind of honesty takes away shame's power, and when shame is gone, peace takes its place. Vulnerability also gives you peace in relationships. You no longer need to win every argument, prove every point, or guard every secret. Instead, you can choose reconciliation over pride, closeness over distance, and love over ego. That choice not only heals others, it heals you. And perhaps the most beautiful peace that vulnerability gives is with yourself. After 60, you don't need to be at war with